Hello and welcome back to Head to Head on RT. I'm your host, CillianClarke, and tonight marks the second instalment in our weekly series where we confront the major questions shaping Irish public life directly, rigorously, and without evasion. Last week, we discussed the immigration question with Taoiseach Bowarn. You can find a link to that broadcast in the broadcasting
Hello
channel
and
to
welcome
rewatch
back
it.
to Head to Head on
For tonight's
RT.
topic, the opposition's view. I'm joined by leader of Sinn Féin and leader of the opposition, Even B. Yates. Even, how are you?
Hello, Killian. Thank you for having me. I'm very, very excited for the program tonight.
That is fantastic. It's nice to have a prominent politician on to challenge and scrutinize our worldview, but also a chance for you to get yours across. I suppose we'll just dig straight in. During the nomination sitting, it is reported that the Labour Party were being persuaded by the Social Democrats to drop out of government and vote against Fine Gael. Sinn Féin reportedly backed this move. Do you not view it as contrary to the national interest to try and back the collapse of a coalition government, especially with no arrangements or plans for after the fact?
I'll just start off by saying I was not the leader of Sinn Féin during that. So, as far as what I can comment on, I wasn't involved in that decision. I have been reached out to by a few different sources since I became leader of Sinn Féin in regards to coalitioning, the collapse of the coalition government. But I will say publicly, from now on, for this term, for Sinn Féin, we're not interested in collapsing a government. That is not something I ever have interest in doing. Stability is king in Ireland. What we want is stable governance. So why would I ever try to collapse a government? If a government is doing well, if a government is keeping a mandate from the people, and a government is governing well to a high standard that the people can be proud of and that the people can appreciate, Sinn Féin will never step in and try to harm that in any way.
So you're of the opinion that the current government is satisfactory. You think they're doing a good job. They're not worthy of being removed.
If they're keeping their mandate from the people and they have not been subject to a vote of no confidence, and the coalition, all the partners in the coalition are happy to continue at this current time, I'm also happy to allow them to govern to what they see fit until basically if they make an egregious mistake that I can't allow to go on any further.
In fairness, that doesn't really sound like a concrete commitment. I think it sounds like, well, we're okay with the government for now, but that could change. Is that your position? You think that when it suits you, we'll let them collapse, but at the moment we don't want to because we're in favor of stability?
Yeah, I am. I'm 100% in favor of stability, and I'm also 100% in favor of working with the government. And I'm 100% willing to work with the government. If Bo has reached out to me, she wants to meet with me weekly, and I'm very much happy to do that. I will say I'm also happy. I'm very happy to work with the government on their bills, and I'm happy to support their bills. I will say I'm quite underwhelmed, I would say, with the amount of legislation that has been passed. So far, we haven't seen much being proposed from the government.
Well,
And
it's
I
been
will
one legislative sitting so far, and two bills have passed. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that not an admirable achievement?
Well, one bill from the government. The second bill got delayed in the Shannon. We haven't seen anything being proposed yet for the legislative sitting tomorrow. So I'm hoping we will get to see some nice bills from the government for tomorrow. There is restrictions as to votes of no confidence. One can't be tabled until the 16th. If that was to be on the table, anyway. It's currently not for me, anyway. I'm in constant communication with all the party leaders, and I do believe that Bo has a plan, and I want to let her govern. She won her mandate. She got her seats. She won the election. I think it's only right to allow her to, I guess, project her vision onto the Irish people. But if she continues, sorry, not if she continues, if she fails to produce this vision,
Is
then I
that a
guess,
flip? Do you think she's failed thus far?
no, I was going to say something else. If she continues to, sorry, if she continues down her path of, I said it to her, especially with the immigration issue, she's continued to say that she has a plan, and then she fails to produce a plan when asked what her actual plan is. And I think that is a failing on her behalf, sorry. So if this continues, I will not be willing to, I guess, support her further.
That's pertinent to the immigration plan, was it?
Hmm.
I'll definitely be touching on that later. But you mentioned stability being important. Now, this is actually a good lead into one of the questions I have here in front of me. You have previously served as Taoiseach, but resigned without stating why in your resignation statement. Do you want to explain that now in retrospect?
Absolutely. This was probably the question I expected the most to come up. It is very pertinent to me running for the office again. So I haven't spoken about this publicly before. So this will be the first time. So yes, I did resign during Kirkgate. Um, I am not a MAGA supporter. I'm not far right, anything. So yeah,
Just lost Catherine's there, I believe.
sorry guys, sorry. So I honestly, people are free to judge me however they want for what I did. That is how elections work. I don't regret my decision. I do stand by it. I never spoke about publicly why I resigned. I kept it all very private. I spoke with Lewis at the time about what I was feeling, why I stood down. He was very receptive. He I was really grateful that he understood where I was coming from at the time. And then I did take a break. So I decided to come back because I really missed everyone. That's kind of the bottom line of why I decided to come back. I had my grievances when I left about how the direction of the group was going, how everything was being run, but when I came back, I did see that there was positive developments being made, and that's why I ultimately decided to stay.
Yeah.
I get that people can turn around and say, well, if you resigned once, surely you can resign again. And that is completely fine,
Uh,
100%.
you took over, and I just want to make a preface this question with obviously clarification that the Director General of RT is the predecessor to the current Taoiseach. Former Taoiseach Leah VNX is the Director General of RT. This obviously has no implications for RT's editorial policy. We have some of the utmost journalistic integrity. Leah VNX obviously is part of that. Um, but she will be mentioned likely in tonight's interview because, she's an outgoing Taoiseach. She's the former leader of Sinn Féin. She released quite a thorough, and I will say, personally speaking, in my time, from my experience and with my judgment, quite a thorough and really quite enjoyable manifesto. It makes for a great read. It's very nicely designed. Is that a manifesto that you endorse yourself? Do you think Sinn Féin put forward the correct plans at the most recent election? Hence why you got this many seats in the Dáil. What do you make of that?
Absolutely. I When I rejoined Ireland, I didn't expect to rejoin politics, but I spoke to Leah and Leah had a vision and I 100% agreed with her vision. And the vision that Leah put forward is something that I wholeheartedly support. And I will be carrying lots of the policies that we worked on together into the next election because I believe they're sound and I believe they're good policies that, if implemented correctly, will do good things for the group as a
Yeah.
whole.
Yeah. Um, so let's touch on that immigration conference because obviously it was the topic for last week's head to head. It's something you've mentioned already. What did you make of immigration being a priority for the government, of them holding a conference on immigration? Do you want to just briefly summarize what you thought of that as well?
First and foremost, I absolutely do not agree with the stance of being hard on immigration. I
Mm,
think it's necessary barriers for people to join the group. Okay. I think what matters the most is whether people can join the group and feel welcome, and then they can become active members of the group. I don't think openness in this regard should mean no standards. Like, I support Bo's idea of removing the cap on 2 immigration officers and raising it to 4, but I also think something she's missed on is how she actually plans to audit new members that join the Roblox group to gain citizenship. And I mean, safeguards should be put in place. So looking at accounts, do they look lived in? How old is the account? Was it made in the last 30 days? Is the account active? Are they in groups? Do they have friends? Just like an
In her
overall.
that is something she did bring up in the interview. She did say those are things she would certainly look at if she was auditing um, the people coming into this country. I think the point I'm trying to make here is that you and Bo's plan, despite all the criticism and bad press she got for it, are really quite similar. The opposition and the Taoiseach are certainly converging on this particular point. You and Bo have the same plan for immigration, do you not?
We do, and I agree. I agree with her. I do agree with her. I just disagree with how she's presenting this. I don't think immigration is such a big issue that it should be central to what she's presenting into her next campaign. But look, if that's what she wants to present as her point of contention, I mean, all power to her. I just don't agree with it being the center.
Well, I think there's a double standard here. Sinn Féin had an entire policy in its manifesto dedicated to immigration, and it reads very similar to the government's policy on immigration. For the purposes of transparency, I'll just read this out. This is from page 8 of Sinn Féin's very nicely designed manifesto. A modern immigration system. Under a second Sinn Féin government, the Naturalisation and Immigration Service will be re-established with a modernised approach. It will be focused on maintaining a fair, accessible and user-friendly immigration system while ensuring it is effective at filtering out bots and fake accounts. This system will allow genuine newcomers to integrate smoothly while preventing large-scale or harmful imports. That is essentially a replica of the government's policy, is it not?
Like I've said, I agree with the policy of immigration. I just don't agree with it being put on a pedestal above other policy ideas.
Right. But you do believe that a policy of essentially you and Bo's policies to just do immigration, by the way. I will summarize that. I think that's a fair generalization to make. Your policy is pretty much just, you know, do immigration since group staff tended to do it in years prior. You think that's worthy of being in a manifesto? Is that something you would put in your manifesto at the next election? Do you think that's something you endorse?
In the next election, it depends again because like we saw with the botting of the group, that is a big issue and that is a big issue that needs to be addressed. But I don't think general day-to-day immigration is such a huge point of contention anymore. I understand why it was in the last election because of the group botting. And if that continues to be a consistent issue, then I definitely think that immigration is important if we continue to see this level of like unprecedented level of activity in the group. But general day-to-day immigration with the usual in and out natural people joining the group, generally INIS with 4 immigration officers and a proper handbook on how to go forward and process the new members of the group, I think they can work away on their own and they don't need, well, not that they don't need extra attention, but they don't need extra special attention. It's not something that you would need to put into a manifesto as a new policy if it's something that's already in place and working.
I will remind viewers that you are absolutely welcome to text into the show by just DMing me about any concerns, questions, or corrections you may have. Head to Head is, historically speaking, quite an interactive show. We do allow audience participation if you just submit your questions to me or elsewhere. Um, I think that's a fair response. I think that's a fair response. Even I do find that I think this is a particular weak point of the Sinn Féin opposition. I mean, there's very let's face it, there's very little distinguishing your opposition and this current government. Is this why we're seeing such a rise in the polls for the Social Democrats and other alternatives? Because to be put quite simply, you're not doing a good enough job of distinguishing your plan for this country.
That is a completely fair criticism, and I will take that. And moving forward, I think, yeah, definitely. It's week 2. I haven't been leader for long. I have a vision for Sinn Féin, and I have put in place plans of what I want to do going forward. We're starting ideological workshops weekly to get the members of the party together, work on our manifesto, get our ideas out. Generally, I feel like ideology, it's not a big thing. I know that's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to say, but sorry, ideology in a group like this is never center, in my opinion. I feel like everybody has similar policy, and all the policy is similarly quite
It's
never radical.
assumed then that your workshop didn't last very long, did it?
My workshop lasted over an hour.
You've spent over an hour discussing something that isn't quite important.
Sorry, no, I mean I political ideologies as in political standings like conservative, left wing, right wing.
Those are ideologies. That's what your
Yeah.
workshop was about, no?
No, my workshop, sorry, I explained this very badly. The ideological workshop we hosted was more about actual policy points in a manifesto
Mm.
regarding different sectors rather than like a left wing, right wing kind of thing.
Even though policies are just vaguely the same from every party.
No, well, yes, a lot of the parties are proposing very similar ideas because we all have generally everyone wants the best for the country. That is that is the common factor across every party. And a lot of the time, what is best for the country is going to be very similar from what everyone proposes. Every party has their own twists, they have their own unique ideas. But generally speaking, a lot of what people propose
And
is
doesn't.
very similar.
Is that a fair assertion to make? Every party has their own twists and ideas, but Sinn Féin doesn't.
Oh, we definitely do.
What sets you apart from Fine Gael at the moment? At this moment in time, the 9th of January 2026, a beautiful new year coming. In 11 days, it will be former President CillianClarke's birthday. We have so much to look forward to. What what can people say in the present moment distinguishes your party from Fine Gael? I mean, you held a workshop on your uh, presumably the anticipated manifesto and the position of Sinn Féin. So you're probably a bit more grounded now on your policy and your ideas. What can you say in this present moment genuinely separates you from other parties? I mean, I think that's going to be your biggest problem facing the next election.
Well, I think the biggest thing that Sinn Féin is going to be proposing going into the next election will be the abolishing of the Department of Defence. I think that is very unique to the other parties, and that is something that we feel very strongly about. We wish to grant more autonomy to the Óglaigh na hÉireann. We want to give them near full operational autonomy in their day-to-day work, like in regards to regulations, training. Sorry, we want to give them just full operational autonomy.
That's that's a really good point actually. On that topic, one of the manifesto pledges from the last manifesto talked about payouts to
Mm.
service members. Is that something you intend on including in the next manifesto? Could you see yourself including that in the next manifesto?
I thought the payouts was unique, like
Hmm.
a pension type system for ex-service members leaving the service, just a way to commend their service. I think it could be really, really nice.
I
Like,
I think it could be too, but I do think that well, there's a few points to address there because you brought up some very interesting policies, but to focus on the payouts more specifically, I think it could be really nice. The problem is that we don't really live in an ideal world. Does Sinn Féin know who's going to pay for this? Where's the Robux going to come from? Are you going to fund it personally? Have you confirmed this with group staff?
well, generally, I didn't discuss this with group staff as I wasn't leader at the time when writing this manifesto. If I was to include this in
Yeah.
my
I agree. Obviously, I'm not going to hold you responsible for a manifesto you weren't present for. But with respect, it is a manifesto you have endorsed. It is a policy you have explicitly mentioned distinguishes you from other parties. So can you credibly say you're able to implement it by saying who's going to pay for it?
well, no, I can't. I absolutely cannot. I can't promise anything because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. if I was to include this in my manifesto going into the next election, I would certainly iron out all the details with group staff if this is something that's implementable. That is generally what I would do. That is generally what I do when writing policy. Is I reach out to the stakeholders, the people that it affects. I've reached out to Oisin Ithaca already regarding is full ID, not full IDF, but more IDF autonomy. Is that feasible? Is that something we can do? So definitely, I wouldn't just promise something that is completely unfeasible and can never be achieved. So
Uh,
yes, if I was
uh, that's a good point, by the way. The IDF autonomy was another policy you brought up when asked, to distinguish yourself from current parties. What sets out the Sinn Féin stall, I suppose, for want of a better phrase. IDF autonomy has dated back to manifestos from 2020, um, since the establishment of the state, before we were even a republic. That's how far back IDF autonomy goes. Is that really your idea of an imaginative, creative, unique policy?
That's just one of our unique policies.
Are the rest of them dating back to 2020?
I'm I mean, I wasn't here in 2020. I would have to research and see are the rest of my policies dating back to 2020. That's I can't really comment on that. I'm not.
Luckily, Orkney have saved you the time because we did identify manifestos that included IDF autonomy in 2020. Um, they've consistently been the manifestos maybe every year since the break of dawn. Um, don't you think that's kind of a poor policy to use when you're distinguishing your party?
I mean, obviously, it's something that people want. If it's been in manifesto since 2020, it's obviously a point of contention for many people.
I don't doubt that because, you're a party leader. You've been given a mandate. You're using this mandate to implement policies people want. I don't think there's any doubt that people want that policy. I think the main question here was one of originality. People also want unique politicians with new ideas, and one of your policies for new ideas was autonomy for the Irish Defence Forces. That's not particularly creative.
Well, maybe being creative is implementing it correctly for the first time. Maybe that's the unique part of it. If it's
You
never
don't,
been done before, then
you don't
doing it
think
for the first time, that
before.
makes. I don't know
Well,
if it has been done before.
you don't
Been here
know,
5 years. I can only speak on my experience in the group currently and
and you don't
my
think it's before, in your experience.
in the year I've been here. I'm not. I always remember there being a Department of Defense.
Well, in terms of autonomy, I believe the Irish Defence Forces played a role in organising the most recent training with Sweden. I think they played a very big role in that, rather than the Department of Foreign Affairs or indeed the Department of the Taoiseach. Do you not think that shows they're perfectly capable of handling their own affairs? That the Chief of Staff you know, he has certainly the necessary freedoms to operate.
Exactly. I believe they are perfectly capable of handling their affairs. That's why I think we should cut the unneeded input from the Department of Defense. I mean, professionals in the IDF should be what is running the IDF, not a politician that maybe doesn't have the necessary experience to be able to help the Oglig in what they actually need.
I think that's totally a fair assertion to make, but I think this certainly touches more on my part of what was it I was pushing at? Originality and what makes a party stand out, because um, that's actually a line you've unknowingly, of course, because you weren't here in 2020. But you've actually just quoted a line from former Taoiseach Tom J. Whitaker. In one of his Labour manifestos, his policy on the Irish Defence Forces was to quote unquote leave it to the professionals. Do you not start to see the irony in calling yourself original whilst using policies that certainly are not?
Well, you know what? I put my hands up. I take a step back, and I will completely admit it's not the most original idea as I thought it was, and I'm quoting Thomas Whitaker unknowingly and begrudgingly.
I'm sure many Irish people will align with that sentiment. But I kid. Tom J. Whitaker is a great statesman. Um, But that's another thing I touched on was polling. I mean, things don't seem to be going too well for you, do they?
I, in the most recent poll, the weekly What's It, I have kept my seat numbers. I'm in second place. I'm the second most approved party leader. And then the most recent one, I was then in third place. I would say the polls are good, especially since I'm such a new leader. I haven't really been able to, I guess, put my mark on the party yet thus far.
Well, I think it's fair to say that, you know, 2 weeks is plenty of time to leave a mark on, especially because the government has done so much in 2 weeks, bad and good, by the way. I'm not a
Sorry,
spokesperson.
Cillian, if I can just interrupt you there for a brief second, I would like to quote a dear friend of mine, Dr. Dermot Scully, and he once famously said that the early tallies are not worth the paper that they're written on. And I do believe, and I believe we can turn it around 1,000%.
I love the sentiment. Um, it's a shame that it doesn't ring true because I think that polls are very indicative of how people feel about party leaders. They're not as tangible in that, they're not the poll, they're not the one and only election poll, but they are a poll. They're a litmus test on your leadership. And at the moment, you're losing out to the Social Democrats. Why is that?
Absolutely true. That is the golden question. Why am I losing to the Social Democrats? I mean, the Social Democrats are a great party. They've got great leadership. Ognian is an absolute master of making graphics. He's got great ideas. He's got great bills represented.
So they should just
And
vote for him.
yeah, why not? Just vote for Ognian, definitely. I
I mean, that sounds very defeatist to me.
no, I support the decision if you wish to vote for the Social Democrats. Perfectly. That's a
You don't
perfectly
seem
good
to be
vote.
you don't seem to be setting out your stall at all.
Yeah,
You you seem to be very
I'm just a big fan of the Social Democrats, really, all in all.
I think maybe you were born into the wrong party. I do. I mean, you're on party number 2 now. We started with Labour. Actually, 3. We started with the Greens, I think, where then we moved to Labour. Now we're in Sinn Féin. Maybe next week.
No,
The
I
social
started in Fianna Fáil.
Hmm?
I started in Fianna Fáil. I was born in Fianna Fáil.
Oh dear.
Yeah, back in the day, I was really, really conservative.
Okay. One moment. I'm going to open to my producers. Apologies. Okay. Quick ad break then.
On time and in perfect condition, provided by our 1,000 plus employees. We offer a large quantity of vehicles for every parcel to ensure it is delivered on time straight to your door.
I have
I have to say,
nothing
do you
but
have a
good things
press
to say.
team that are, like,
Genuinely, I
talking to you
absolutely
as you
love
do
it
this?
as an organisation.
No, I'm just
I
getting
just think
abused
it's
in my
such an
DMs.
amazing company to
Oh
work
my god, by
for.
who?
I'm really enjoying it. I mean,
Isabel
I can honestly
McNamara.
say hand on heart, I've never experienced this much job
What a
satisfaction.
cretin. What
I
a
always said
cretin.
if you ever
I bet her
don't
family
like it or
members
stop
are
enjoying
ashamed of
coming
her,
to work,
whoever they are.
I would look
Whomever
something
they are.
new, and it's 11 years in and I still enjoy coming to work.
We offer a relaxed working environment with no activity
I've just
requirements.
been
Join us to
rang
begin
from
earning
Phoenix Park.
£2,000 every few minutes, and also continue to commit crime off duty.
I think Maria
I am an
Steen, the
extremely
President of
lucky
Ireland,
person
is
because
contacting
I
you.
absolutely love what I do. I live and breathe it.
When it comes to our services, we are
Are you
second to
really a
none from
woman?
other
Phone
businesses
lock.
and will
Phone
never
line
fail to
abruptly
provide for our
ending.
consumers, whether that be
Okay.
businesses such as Greg's or Less Cookies, or any of our other customers.
The knowledge and
Mike's is still on.
experience that I've had from working for the past 10 years has just been amazing.
Mia, you can't
really
do that. You can't
me
leave
feel
our mics
passionate.
on. What are you doing? I'm trying to
I'm
discuss
constantly-
Maria Steen on air. I think we're just off air for the rest of the broadcast.
Honestly, I don't think the people want to hear about fucking Roblox policies. They want to hear about fox hunting.
Oh, welcome back to Head to Head with RT. I'm your host, CillianClarke. If you want to watch last week's broadcast of Head to Head, in which we questioned on Taoiseach on the immigration question, you can find that in the broadcast channel. I'm still joined on air by Leader of the Opposition, even B. Yates. I'm sure you heard our hot mic moment earlier during the ad break. RT apologises for any violations of the watershed. Regardless, I'm just
No,
going
we're
to...
past watershed.
Oh yes, we're past watershed, thank God. I just want to say, before the break, we discussed things like immigration and the previous manifesto policies, of which there are more questions to come. But at the moment, I have a particular concern with Sinn Féin. Even, do you want to just describe your job as both leader of Sinn Féin and leader of the opposition in this moment? What is your job and your goal?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I'm leader of Sinn Féin. Being the leader of Sinn Féin, I think being the leader of any party, what it basically comes down to is organizing people. That is, I would say, the main job of being a leader of a party: organizing people, getting your people where they need to be, talking with your people, hearing them, getting their ideas. That is, I would say, the main part of what being a party leader is. And then it's very similar being the leader of the opposition, getting your people in the Dáil, working with the government, supporting the things that you agree with. I guess helping them be better would be a nice way to put it. Scrutinizing the things you don't agree with.
Do you see it as your aim to get Sinn Féin into government?
I would say, generally speaking, if you are going to be a party leader, there's that little greed that every party leader, I think, has to have of, I want to be in government, I want to be Taoiseach. I think that is generally something you have to have, that drive to lead a party. And that doesn't mean you want to collapse the current government. That doesn't mean you want to ruin another government. That just
Of
means,
course. But, like, assuming you lead Sinn Féin into the next election, your aim is to win the election, isn't it? And to become Taoiseach.
absolutely, that is always going to be the goal for a party leader, to become the Taoiseach.
Well, on that note, I think we should go back to the polls then, because at the moment, by those measurements anyway, you don't seem to be achieving that goal anytime soon. You would be below the Social Democrats. You would be one seat above Fine Gael. This is according to the Weekly What's who released their seat projection earlier today. You would only be 3 seats ahead of Fianna Fáil and the Labour Party, who both are doing, equally miserable in the polls. You don't seem to be doing very well for Sinn Féin at all. The reason why this is a bigger concern than just the polling is because I questioned you on, setting out your stall and distinguishing Sinn Féin from other parties. You seem to be totally fine with people not voting for Sinn Féin at all. You don't seem to be someone of thorough conviction in that, Sinn Féin is the best choice out there. You seem to be, pretty disinterested in convincing people that Sinn Féin should win the next election. Do you not think this is alarming for your TDs and your candidates across the country who want a seat, who want to be a minister, who want to enter government, that you're really not interested in that at all?
I think that is a very fair assumption to make from what I said earlier. I do love the Social Democrats, but I do believe that Sinn Féin is going to be a viable option for many people to vote for in the next election. I do believe that the team of people that we will present, Isabel is not to glaze her, not to be nepotistic. I really do think she was one of the best Minister for Foreign Affairs in recent times.
Mm,
Like cars driving past, I don't know if they were really loud.
I couldn't.
Sorry, what was I saying? Yeah, Isabel is one of the best Minister for Foreign Affairs, in my opinion, in recent times. I've got a great my proposed cabinet, basically, the people I'm putting forward, the team I have, the policy that will be presented in our manifesto. I am confident in it, and I'm confident in the team of people that I'm putting forward. And I was entrusted by the O'Connor Court Committee to lead Sinn Féin into the next, well, not necessarily into the next election, but I was trusted by the O'Connor Court Committee to lead Sinn Féin, and I will be taking that trust, and I hopefully will be able to keep that trust, and I will be able to make magic happen and propose us to the people.
All I can add is that if I was a Sinn Féin member, I'm not exactly inspired to trust you based on those remarks. I would be quite concerned. Also, I believe that the mic, okay? The mic we attached to you just fell off. The mic we attached to you just fell off in studio. I've had to reattach it. Sorry about that. Oh,
Sorry, I actually ran stage by accident.
I think the faux fur, by the way, vegan fur coat, ruined the mic on you. That's okay. We've reattached. Our producers have reattached. Anyway, part of the previous Sinn Féin manifesto was the Great Repeal. So this is on the basis on which you were elected, right? What voters looked at was your most recent manifesto. They voted based on that. And part of that was the Great Repeal. This is page 11 of the Sinn Féin manifesto, and it reads, "The Great Repeal. A Sinn Féin government will undertake a Great Repeal measure, getting rid of all sorts of pointless bureaucratic laws our predecessors have written in their futile pursuits to maintain a facade of progress." That is out of your manifesto. Why haven't Sinn Féin proposed a Great Repeal yet in opposition, despite the fact that this is why they were elected?
I Sorry, I was kicked from the game. Sorry, but basically, what I was going to say, I do have bills prepared, and I am proposing them to the Dáil tomorrow. They haven't been tabled yet because I'm still waiting on hearing back from Bo. I wanted to meet her before I proposed anything to basically look for bipartisan support. I will be proposing to Bo tomorrow a repeal of the Monaghan County Council Act and replacing it with a Local Councils and Community Act instead, something that can be expanded upon looking forward into the future, especially with Project S. It's something, 'cause I feel like the Monaghan County Council, it's very rigid in being specifically for Monaghan, whereas if we had a bigger picture idea, a clear structure for our county councils, with the blueprint being the original Monaghan County Council Act. That's one of the things I have prepared.
Specifically, though, the Great Repeal. Do you plan on repealing outdated acts anytime soon?
I have since I became leader. I have been scouring the statute book to see what I can do to improve certain acts. I did start with the Monaghan County Council one, and it did take me a while to write that act. I've written another bill. It did take a long time to write because it was lots of constitutional references, lots of references to other bills. So we will be seeing them in the very short future, being tomorrow, hopefully. I would like to repeal more bills, but also repealing, amending. Sorry. I don't want to repeal just to repeal because I just feel like that's useless. Amendments.
Yeah.
The bill can be made more valuable with an amendment. I feel like that is generally more valuable than a repeal.
Right. Part of your manifesto also included, pretty group staff responsible things. Like one of your pledges was quote unquote continue the daily SSU. I mean, is that a policy you endorse? Do you think we should, maybe use policies that are actually government pertinent? Like, what do you make of that policy?
I think a daily SSU is a great thing. We are at our core Roblox community, and this is kind of a big thing for me. I feel like we're too reliant on Discord in our current functionality day to day. A majority of our conduct is conducted on Discord, and I think generally a lot of community members that are majorly Roblox based can be left out of this, and I feel like the SSUs is one of the ways that we can really bring more Roblox based community members into the community and give them more of a voice. They can interact with other members. So generally I think daily SSUs is going to be a really, really good idea.
We spoke earlier in the show about government stability and votes of confidence, and I think I'm going to push you a bit further on that because I don't think we got a clear-cut answer. I think it was a miscommunication, really. You seem to suggest, votes of confidence are just not, they're not, the cooldown hasn't even ended yet. We shouldn't be doing votes of confidence. I support the government. The government has a clear plan. So, in that respect, you're essentially a government party. You're basically giving them confidence without any supply, I will add. But then additionally, you say, well, if they stray from their mandate and they fail to do their job, we will vote of confidence them. So, which is it? Do you think the government is straying from what the public imagined for them? I mean, there were some sour criticisms from Sinn Féin in the Dáil last week um, because of their appearance and their press conference and their appearance on Head to Head. But now all of a sudden, Sinn Féin is completely okay with, the government staying in office. They're doing the best they can. You sound like a spokesperson for the government, really, when you describe your plan on votes of confidence.
No, I understand where you're coming from, absolutely. But I feel like I will reiterate what I said. The government was elected with a mandate. They were elected to deliver their ideas. And within the coalition government, if they continue to deliver their ideas for the people, the coalition government is going to maintain confidence with the people
And
and themselves.
have they done that so far?
Sorry. Um,
You're okay.
that's not for me to say. If the coalition is still together, then
It's not for the leader of the opposition to say whether or not the government is doing a good job and keeping to their plan.
Oh, sorry. I've completely misunderstood that. I thought,
Yeah.
no, yeah, that is for me to say, and I have been saying that. I have been scrutinizing the government for what they're doing badly, and I have also been supporting them for what I think they're doing well. In the current state, the coalition government looks like it's strong. It's going well. All the parties seem pretty happy with each other.
Is that the case? Do you think that's the case?
Well, I can't comment on any other internal. I can't comment on the internal affairs of any other party because I'm not in any other party. Of course, that would be illegal. I would get struck down by the
I would have to agree with you on that one. I'm not involved in the internal affairs of other parties either.
electoral commission. Very interesting. Very interesting you say that.
But I can add that you don't have to be in order to read the headlines. There were headlines about Mr. Bruce Ismay at conflict at conflict with his own party members. There were issues with, I mean, this headline from IE News, a very trusted source, by the way, an already fractured government. Taoiseach Bowen's promise of a common sense right wing government for Ireland has already been broken this week after she bent the knee to the Labour Party's hard left stance on immigration. Is that a government that's together?
Well, IE News, obviously a very, very trusted news source, and of course, I will trust them completely in everything they say. Thus, know that government is fractured; it's falling apart. We can't continue into the next week, of course, with this government. I will say, with the resignation of the immigration minister for state, I guess being called, what would you say, being called on by the Labour Party? I
I
guess
would
it
say,
was more egged on by the Labour Party. I
yeah,
would say
God.
that does show the beginning of fractures in the coalition government, and that is very worrying, especially since. Okay, no, I can't mention though. Can we? Are we talking about the? We're not really talking about foreign affairs, are we? No.
You can bring it up, yeah, if it's relevant to the point, absolutely, of course.
Well, I'm just saying, especially with like growing tensions again in the United Kingdom, the military government being formed, that is very worrying, especially if we don't have a stable government. Like I said, stability is going to be the key issue if tensions were to further escalate. I'm not saying they will. We don't know if they will. We don't know what's going to happen. But if tensions were to further escalate, stability would be key above all else. And we can't have a coalition.
Well,
We can't have a coalition with that being if that
with
is to
that
happen.
with that being the circumstance, you don't think that, you're saying where we have a government that's showing signs of fracture. We have a resignation egged on by the Labour Party, a partner in this coalition, but you're not willing to take the opportunity to pounce on that, to get them out of government, to put yourself in government or hold an election to put yourself in government. You're not willing to take that jump, and instead you'd rather defend the government as leader of the opposition. You'd rather defend their record in office. Is that not, that's kind of a strange thing for not just me, I presume, but also the listeners to try and rationalize. Why would a leader of the opposition not take that jump?
I would just like to clarify. I will not be defending the government. I would be defending stability. If they were to
Well, you'd
stabilize,
be defending the status quo, wouldn't you? And the status quo is Bo Warren.
Do you have a problem with Bo Warren being the status quo? Gosh.
I think the leader of the opposition should have a problem with Bo Warren being the status quo.
I've I've no personal issue with Bo Warren.
But I mean, I presume you have political ones? Unless Sinn Féin signed the programme for government without telling us.
We did, yeah. We did.
Revealed to RT live on air. Actually, in the fine print. Did you not read that?
Co-signed, yeah. Tomorrow we're joining the government benches. Surprise. You guys had to find out this way.
It certainly would suit the electorate, wouldn't it? Because then the real opposition, the Social Democrats, could take over.
What were we even talking about? What was the original question?
The original question was just that, you literally, I'm not kidding when I say this. You have to, and I'm sure the listeners agree, you have literally towed the government line this evening better than the Taoiseach last week. You have done a better job than the Taoiseach last week defending the government. Does that not, how do you rationalize that? That's a bit cray-cray, no?
All I can say is I'm 100% pro stability. I'm 100% pro a government, a full government governing the country. And if this coalition was to fall apart, if Bo was to lose that mandate and that stability was to break, I would 100% be pro calling an election right then and there.
Even if you don't have to call an election, would you not form government to get Bo out? Would you not call on Bo's resignation and a new Fine Gael leader come in? I mean, it seems to me there's plenty of aggressive approaches you could take as leader of the opposition. You just seem, frightfully terrified of taking them. This is like that clip of Ed Miliband, when they're like, Ed Miliband, are you tough enough for the job? Even B. Yates, are you tough enough for the job?
Well, generally, I'm a lover, not a fighter. So
No, you're supposed to, hell yes, I'm tough enough. Hell yes, look at me.
really, I'm really not tough. Like at my core, I'm very soft. I'm very soft. I'm very sensitive. I will go home and I will cry after this interview. So
That's okay. RT does have a package for hurt feelings report. That's fine. That's completely okay. I have tried to create a nice atmosphere at RT, but the Director General can be quite abusive and whatnot. So, Erin, I'm going to give you your final pitch. This has been the topic of the opposition's view. I believe I've given you a fair chance to articulate that view throughout the broadcast. Would you agree?
sorry, my final pitch as in my stance on.
Before we get to the final pitch, do you think I've given you a fair chance to articulate your views tonight?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm now going to give you a chance to give your final pitch to the listeners here on why you should be the next Taoiseach, why you think the government is doing well or not doing well at the moment, and what Sinn Féin is doing as it moves forward.
Okay, thank you, Cillian. Well, first I will. Sorry, that was disgusting. I just burped. Let me start again. I will first and foremost put out my appeal to the people. If Sinn Féin have, myself in collaboration with the chairman of Sinn Féin, we have set forth a new initiative within Sinn Féin Party that will be a weekly workshop within the caucus party to get those creative juices flowing, get a Sinn Féin manifesto together that we can all be proud of, and we can all present to the public, to the electorate in the next election with pride, happiness. So if you're interested in working on policy, if you're interested in getting involved with a party that will listen to what you have to say, I would say Sinn Féin is the party for you. That's basically it at this time. Sinn Féin, we're trying to make a family. So if you want to be part of a family, Sinn Féin might be for you.
Thank you. I do have an outro. I should get it. but I think that was a fair pitch. Yes, so I'd like to that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of Head to Head on RT. I would like to thank the leader of Sinn Féin and the leader of the opposition, Even B. Yates, for joining us this evening. Over the course of tonight's discussion, viewers will have noticed that while this programme was built on the opposition's view, there were moments where the opposition came clear-cut with their distinguishable views on the matter, and moments where they didn't. This raised serious questions about where meaningful opposition currently lies, but that observation is not a judgment for me to make, for my guest tonight to make, or even for the producers to make. That is a reality for the public to consider. Head-to-Head exists to test ideas, to probe differences, and to give viewers clarity. When those differences are absent, that too is part of the story. As always, the full broadcast will be available to rewatch in the broadcasting channel shortly, and we encourage viewers to engage with it, reflect on what was said and what was not, and to draw their own conclusions. Next week, we return with another major issue shaping Irish public life, another guest at the centre of the debate. Thank you for coming, Even B. Yates. I've been CillianClarke, and good night.